Happy Friday, guys. Hope you're doing well. Made it through your first week of online learning. Yay. We're going to continue talking about cell types, and one type of cell I want to talk to you about today is bacteria. So today we're going to talk about bacteria, how it is helpful, and also how it is harmful. I have a video for you guys to watch, and then after this video, you are going to have to do a Google form. Make sure you do a good job on that one. It's a little bit longer today. We will be putting it into the grade book. It's all open note, but it will go into the grade book, so you'll need to look back at some of the things you've done this week as you complete that assignment. So let's review from yesterday. Yesterday we came up with a list of characteristics that we can use to decide if something is living or not living. And on that list we had 5 major things. In order to be living, something needs to be able to grow, right? It needs to be able to reproduce. It needs metabolism, which means that it can take in and get energy through some chemical processes when it eats food. And it has a response to stimuli. And it is, of course, made of cells. And we have talked about unicellular organisms and also multicellular organisms. And bacteria is another unicellular organism that I really wanted to focus in on today before we move on and start talking about how cells join together to make tissues and organs and systems in our body. So today we're going to focus on bacteria, and when you hear the word bacteria, it might have a negative connotation. Maybe you've talked about connotation in ELA. It's just like how you view something, if it's good or bad when you hear a word. And bacteria is one of those things that kind of gets a bad rap, right? We think, oh, bacteria is bad, makes us sick, be careful. And those things are true, but not for all bacteria. So there are some things about bacteria that you might be surprised to learn. Bacteria are actually a major group of living organisms, and they are mostly unicellular. And bacteria is everywhere. That's because bacteria are actually the most abundant of all organisms. So of all living things on Earth, the largest group is actually bacteria. And not all bacteria are bad. So contrary to that belief you might already have, that misconception, we do have good bacteria, and we need bacteria. So in our bodies, we actually have more bacteria than we have human cells. And biologists estimate that for every human cell in the body, there are 10 bacteria cells. So remember, we talked about how many human cells we have. Does anybody remember? We have like trillions of human cells, right? And now we got to multiply that by 10 in order to come up with how many bacteria cells we have. So I'm going to leave that to you guys in math with Miss Montgomery. You can ask her how many bacteria cells would be in your body if we have that many. Whoops, I don't know what I just did. Sorry, guys. I'm still learning all this. All right, so you might have actually eaten some bacteria for breakfast this morning if you had yogurt, right? So yogurt is actually a food that contains bacteria. They put in live and active cultures. You might have seen that on the yogurt that you ate, live and active cultures. These are actually good bacteria, and they're needed by your body. They help you with digestion, right? So helping with breaking down your food. You need to have good bacteria in your body. Some of you might take a probiotic, right? And probiotics help with digestion. They help to make your digestive system healthy, and you need good bacteria in your body. So please don't stop eating yogurt. Don't be afraid of yogurt. Yogurt is good for you. You need these good bacteria. Bacteria are also decomposers. So remember when we talked about food webs? I know you have to pull way back into your brain to like 6th grade and 5th grade, right? Of food webs. One organism gives energy to another organism, but decomposers are very important in any food web because they're what's going to break down that organism after it is after it dies, right? You can actually even make your own compost at home. So if you're super bored, you don't have anything to do right now, right? So you could get some dirt and you can start putting your food in there. Now you need to use food, that's biodegradable. Don't throw your trash in there, but just your food scraps like apples, banana peels, those kind of things. And over time, you will see them that they break down. That's because there's bacteria in that soil that you are putting those items into. So over time, they're going to break down. That's because bacteria are our decomposers. That means that they break down the matter. And of course, some types of bacteria are also harmful. You may have gone to the doctor before because you have a sore throat, right? And the doctor looks inside your throat, just like the picture here, and he may take a cotton swab and swab the back of your throat and put it in a little container, and then they do some stuff with that to see if anything grows, right? And that's because they're checking to see if you have bacteria. You might have strep throat. There are some other things that are caused by bacteria too. You can see this big mounting list here. So yes, bacteria can be harmful. We're going to watch a video to just find out more. We'll find out more about good bacteria, bad bacteria. I thought that this video was pretty informative, so I wanted to show it to you guys.
When I was a little kid, my parents would let me take my favorite set of dinosaurs into the tub, probably to persuade me into taking a bath. I remember my dinosaurs well. In fact, I used to know all of my dinosaurs. I had epic dinosaur battles. Sometimes my sister would play with them too, just a little differently. Anyway, I remember that one day, unfortunately, my favorite Stegosaurus lost his head. I mean, literally, it just popped off. And while I was determined to get my parents to fix it, we discovered that there was stuff growing in the toy. Now I realize what was actually large enough to be visible was likely mold. But at the time, my mother told me that Sergeant Stegosaurus would have to retire from the bathtub and I'd have to get a new one because bacteria had taken over. It led to two misconceptions I developed about bacteria. Number one, that bacteria were only found on or in things that had gotten contaminated somehow. And two, that bacteria are always bad, and that is why Sergeant Stegosaurus required replacing. Those are both not correct. First of all, there probably were bacteria in the dinosaur, along with the mold. But that shouldn't be surprising because bacteria are everywhere. Bacteria are found in our houses, yes, even very clean houses, and they are found outside. Bacteria colonize our skin, in our digestive system. That addresses the first misconception that you only find bacteria on contaminated or dirty surfaces. And as for the second misconception, well, bacteria sure do get a bad reputation. Now, I'm not disagreeing that the toy should have been thrown out. That was a good decision. There was probably mold that was in that toy dinosaur, a fungus, but there was likely plenty of bacteria growing there with it. A growing community of mold and bacteria, not ideal for a bath toy. But we do want to mention that many times all bacteria are lumped together as a bad thing, which shouldn't happen because not all bacteria are bad. In fact, many types of bacteria are helpful for organisms and ecosystems. We'll give you some examples. Some of the bacteria that colonize your skin are beneficial and actually help keep harmful strains and other types of pathogens from growing. Bacteria in your digestive system actually help break down food, and some can produce certain vitamins. Some types of bacteria are used in producing some foods that we eat. In ecosystems, bacteria have a very important role as decomposers. Bacteria also have major roles in the nitrogen cycle to fix nitrogen that plants need. These are just a few examples of helpful, beneficial bacteria. Now, that's not to say that bacteria can't be pathogens. Bacteria are the cause of strep throat, tetanus, tooth decay, some forms of pneumonia, diphtheria, salmonella, cholera. I could go on. Antibiotics can be used to combat some of these. And while antibiotics are very important for destroying bacterial infections, we shouldn't leave out saying that some broad-spectrum antibiotics can harm some of the good bacteria as well. Also, we should mention that antibiotics do not work on viruses. Viruses are pathogens that are not made of cells at all. You can check out our video on them. Additionally, there are vaccines which can prevent many types of bacterial and viral infections. Okay, so what are bacteria exactly? In the three domains of life, bacteria encompass one of them. They come in different types of shapes, as you can see here. Some of them are heterotrophs, meaning they consume or feed on some organic matter. But some are autotrophs, they can make their own food. Plants aren't the only autotrophs. Let's take a look at this bacterium here. Bacterium is just singular, while bacteria is plural. A bacterium is a prokaryotic cell, which are generally much smaller than eukaryotic cells, like our cells. If you recall from our video, that means bacteria do not have a nucleus or other membrane-bound organelles, but you will find ribosomes, cytoplasm, a cell membrane, and nearly all bacteria have a cell wall. Like all living organisms, bacteria have DNA. Bacterial DNA, while still double-stranded, is arranged in a circular shape. Depending on the species, bacteria can also have a flagellum to help with movement, a capsule which can help give them extra protection or attachment abilities, or pili, which can help them with attaching to surfaces, including each other. Oh, and many bacterial species have a plasmid, which is basically like extra DNA. More about that later. Bacteria have some intriguing abilities that are different from our human cells that we'd like to mention. Unlike body cells, which perform mitosis and cytokinesis to divide, bacteria generally multiply even faster in a process called binary fission. Binary fission is a type of asexual reproduction, when the bacteria can easily divide to make a copy of themselves. Since it is asexual reproduction, the daughter cells would be expected to be identical to the parent cells, unless there's a mutation. Some types of bacteria do have the ability to share genetic material with each other. Remember how we mentioned that bacteria can have a plasmid, an extra copy of DNA with usually just a few genes on it? Well, bacteria can share these plasmids with each other in a process known as conjugation. The pili can be used to share this genetic information with each other. If the plasmid happens to have a gene that gives some degree of resistance to an antibiotic, this may allow the bacterium that received the plasmid to survive exposure to that antibiotic, which could be very problematic. You can learn more about how antibiotic resistance can develop over time in bacteria in our natural selection video. Bacteria can also pick up plasmids from their environment. Often when this happens, it's during a time of stress for the bacteria. In a process known as bacterial transformation, scientists can use a type of stimulus, such as a heat shock, to induce bacteria in a lab setting to pick up genetic material. There are all kinds of these uses for these genetically engineered bacteria that you can explore. Some types of bacteria can form endospores. Endospores allow bacteria to be survivors in all kinds of hostile environments, lack of nutrients, freezing temperatures, drought, just some examples. This is a reason why hospitals have to be very good at sterilization processes. We won't go through the process of endosporulation or how bacteria reactivate after forming endospores, but this is definitely something interesting to explore. Finally, some types of bacteria, along with other types of prokaryotes called archaea, can be extremophiles. Unlike our own cells, extremophiles can live in extreme environments where there may be excessive heat, chemicals that our cells would find toxic, or even radiation. Overall, we share this planet with so many kinds of bacteria that scientists continue to learn more about them every day. And if this kind of topic interests you, you may want to look into the study of microbiology. So many careers, from agriculture to the medical field to environmental work, rest heavily on the study of microbiology. Well, that's it for the Meet the Sisters, and remind you to stay curious.
All right, guys, your next task today is to complete reading 2.3, Cells Here, There, Everywhere. It's on page 22 through 25, and then you're going to complete the Google form 2.3 Life Science. So like I did mention, it's going to be a little bit more questions on there today, and I am going to be taking it as a grade, so please make sure you do your best work. Of course, you can look up answers. It's all open book, just like in class when we do our bell work assignments. So go back in your readings, go back to notes you've taken this week and things that we've talked about. You can go back to the videos that we have watched this week. anywhere that you need to find your answers, so that you can do a good job on your little assignment here that's going to go into the grade book. All right, if you have any questions, please come see me at open office hours from 9 to 9:40 each morning.